Well, and I'm going to bring in the next article and then we can kind of finish talking about it because I think they're very related. The second one, also from CIO Dive, but a study from Synergy Research Group. And interesting looking at the overall spend and found that cloud spending or cloud, I guess really the cloud footprint is a better way to think about it. The amount of data center, 44% is now the hyperscalers. And what was interesting is that still means 56% is either on-prem or colo.
Hmm.
And to be honest, that actually surprised me that it was still the still majority is non-cloud, but it points to the growing cloud spending, more and more moving to cloud. And to me, what this sort of looks at is I see this sort of synergy. We've talked about the repatriation, and I do think that's a very real thing. We're seeing the repatriation of cloud workloads back to particularly colo facilities. The article also points out there we're increasingly running into a shortage in colo capacity because of this. But I think if you put these two stories together, what you are seeing is that there's this rationalization process that is desperately needed to happen as we start looking at our workloads in general and understanding our SaaS footprint, our cloud footprint, our on-prem, all of these different pieces, and start assembling a right-sizing strategy of how you align this to your business objectives and goals. And then the AI piece of this just sort of adds a complicating layer, right? Of how you then deal with that. And are you actually bringing this in-house? It did point out that there's been a surge in on-prem, mostly because of AI workloads, but that's probably temporary. And so I find this whole thing quite interesting. And I think the last little piece in this first article you talked about, the Flexera one, it talks about the increasing convergence between FinOps and ITAM. And really it's about FinOps and this overarching view, which we talked about a lot, that the FinOps needs to be this holistic view of all of your spend and all these different pieces as they're all increasingly merging. So I just think it points to just how challenging this is and why you have to stop looking at it in these silos and looking at this holistically.
Yeah, I'm working on my final piece on FinOps right now as I'm finishing up my analyst career. And part of it is talking about how FinOps is not just about the cloud, but also about the data center, also about networking, also about mobility. Really, it is a broad capability. And I think that's a challenge for the FinOps Foundation, who are finding that they have accidentally found this can of worms, this unmanaged IT spend in multiple categories that need to be managed from soup to nuts. They just wanted to manage the cloud space because it was the sexy space and it was growing the fastest, and because developers love new toys. And then now that CIOs are finding that these FinOps organizations are having a lot of success dealing with extremely granular and real-time usage, they are seeing all these other use cases. And I think FinOps Foundation now has to figure out how much do we want to get into SaaS and networking and software and all this stuff that we thought were kind of settled cost challenges, but actually weren't, now that we can dig into greater detail.
Yeah, and I think it's only going to get more complicated. We talked, I think, a couple of weeks ago about the evolving nature of AI pricing, and that's going to continue to complicate things and going to be yet another. I mean, you think SaaS was tough to predict. AI pricing is going to be even harder. And so you're going to throw that into the mix. I think that, if you are not the CIO and investing in this space of figuring out how to get your head around this, you're going to find yourself really far behind. So, I don't think there are answers in any of this, but I think it's very useful that we're really starting to get some visibility into the true nature of the situation and the challenges that are still facing organizations.